pattern that I'm using is from Etsy, and the name of the shop is Sister 8 Shop, and it's spelled Sister, the number 8, SHOP. The pattern costs $6.95, and the name of the pattern is Snugfit Scrub Hat Patterns by Elizabeth. Okay? Each hat takes less than half a yard, much less than half a yard. In fact, the way I'm cutting them, I'm able to get about 4 out of a yard. So the things that you'll need to make this hat include a quilting ruler. This is a luxury item. If you don't have a quilting ruler, you can use any type of yardstick or ruler to draw a line for the straight pieces, and you can cut it out using a pair of scissors. So you can use scissors like these if you don't have a rotary cutter and a ruler. Okay, so scissors are just fine too. You just use a pen or a marker. You don't have to have a special marking pen either. And you just mark your pattern and your line, and you can cut it out. Okay. Something that the pattern calls for is 1/4 inch elastic, and I have this is what it calls for. And you can get this at Walmart or any craft store. From what I understand, because people are making masks, they're actually running out of this, so it's not in stock. You can also use the swim elastic, which is the same width, it's just cotton instead of nylon. Another option for elastic is if you have any fold over elastic. I know a lot of us crafters have this because we make the hair ties or hair bands for babies. This is really nice. You don't have to make it 1/4 of an inch because it's so soft. If you wanted to fold it, it becomes 1/4 of an inch, but you don't really have to. So this one we did, and as you can see, we did not fold the fold over elastic. It's just so soft that it easily pulls through the opening. Okay, and the last option for the elastic is if you don't have any elastic, you will have extra fabric. And what you can do is take one of these strips of fabric that you have left over, and you can fold it in half, or fold it towards the middle on each side, and then in half. And what you'll end up making is a drawstring that you can sew in where the elastic goes in the pattern. Okay, and I'll get to that later. Alrighty, some helpful items to have are this Dritz dry hemmer, because you are going to have to roll up a hem to make a channel and hem it across the bottom of the cap. Or this slide ruler is also helpful for that. Okay, and then also the fabric that you need to use will be a cotton woven with no stretch, so any type of quilting material would work. Alright, we'll be back in just a moment. Hey everybody, step 1 is to cut a 1 yard piece of fabric out of your quilting cotton, and you want to make sure to iron it because these wrinkles will make a difference on cutting out or on your end product once you cut everything out and start sewing. So I use a high steam setting and a high cotton setting on my iron, and these settings are good for, like I said, a quilting cotton or 100% cotton fabric. You don't want to use that with a fabric that has synthetic materials in it. Hey everybody, step 2 is going to be cutting out your fabric. Once you've ironed your fabric and you've folded it back together, and let me show you, some people don't realize this. You know, we don't always cut our fabric straight, and neither do the fabric stores. So when you're folding your fabric together, you want to make your selvage edges meet. You want to pick it up, and you're going to move the top left or right until you don't have a wrinkle. See right here I have a wrinkle, and I'm going to move it to where I no longer have a wrinkle, as close as possible anyway. I'm going to lay it down on my cutting mat and just smooth it out. Okay, and then I'm going to take my folded edge, and that's going to be my straight edge. Okay, ready. because you want to square your fabric up before you start cutting your pieces. So what I would do is I would take my ruler, kind of try to find the closest edge I can. And you can do this with a pair of scissors, but since I have the rolling cutter, I'm going to use that. And I'm just going to take this jagged edge off. Hopefully it cut all the way through. It's a little worn out right now. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this so that I now have two straight edges, one on my left and my folded edge. Let's see here. Line it up, and now you're ready to cut your band pieces. Okay, and you'll have to buy the pattern to find out what the measurement actually is for these band pieces, but you'll cut it out here, and I can get, I think, quite a few out of 1 yard. Okay, you'll do the same thing with the fabric for your crown piece. So this is the crown piece, and like I said, you don't have to use two different fabrics. You can use the same fabric on the top and the bottom. It's up to you. It's your choice. You can have fun with it. But for the crown piece, what I do is I cut about a 10-inch piece of fabric, and I'm going to open it all the way up long ways. And then for the ironing on this, I'll fold it in half long ways, and I'll iron a crease all the way down the length of the fabric, and that way I can lay my pattern piece and trace and cut it out, all my crown pieces. Okay, if you start as close as you can to your selvage, you can actually even get a little bit of the end of the pattern piece in the selvage here. You should be able to get quite a few hat pieces or crown pieces out of this one length of fabric. The other thing is that whenever you iron this crease down the middle, then it's going to help you with the construction of the hat, because then you're automatically going to know where the middle of the hat is for the front and back. So it also cuts down on pinning, which, speaking of, earlier I forgot to tell you guys that you're going to need some pins. Hey guys, I just wanted to make a clarification. When you're cutting your crown, that you're cutting on the fold. And for those who maybe are not as quite experienced as others, on the fold means that you're going to take the half moon shape and you're going to put the straight line on your fold of your fabric as it lays down, and then you're going to cut it so that when you open it, you have a full circle. Or, well, I guess that's more like an oval. Okay, everybody, so step 3 is we're going to sew the body of the hat together, but if you have a serger, it would be better if you zigzag these 2 short edges and the 1 long edge. The top edge is going to be included in your hat in the inside, and you'll encase those edges later. But right now I'm going to go ahead and serge my edges. Okay, and once I get those edges serged, I'm going to take it over to the ironing board. I'm going to fold this up for my casing, and I'm going to iron it down. One thing to note, if you don't have a serger, you can just use your machine, your sewing machine, and zigzag along these edges that I just serged, and it will serve the same purpose. It won't unravel, okay? If you don't have a serger and you're doing your hem, what you're going to do, which actually is part of the hem and it also becomes the casing for your elastic, but what you'll do is you just fold the unserged edge under once, about 1/4 inch, and then you'll fold it under again according to your pattern instructions to make the casing, and you'll iron that. You don't want to sew it down yet, you'll iron that, okay? So once I get this folded up and ironed, I'll be back to show you how to finish it out. Hey everybody, I just wanted to take a short minute and show you how to use this Dritz Easy Hem, or if you have something similar to it, to hem these really quickly. So if I turn it over, I have all my measurements here, and then however, depending on how big of a channel you want is how far up you would go. These are in centimeters, but these are in inches. So I just lay it down usually kind of towards the middle and then bring it up as far as I want. Like I said, this can change depending on what your pattern states and what type of elastic or ties you're using to pull through the channel. I'm just going to do an inch to show you here on the video how to use the ruler. And then once you have it up like this, then you pick up your iron and you set it down. Notice I'm not moving my iron around, I'm just picking it up and setting it down. Once I finish, I'm going to be very careful because I don't want to pick this up while it's still hot. You will burn yourself. And that is how you do your hem very quickly. Hey guys, so now we're back and we're going to sew our hat body together. In the pattern it calls for a buttonhole. I'm giving a workaround for that buttonhole because, well, I hate buttonholes. I don't know about you. Most people are not fans, but if you are a fan, go ahead and make your buttonholes. If not, or if your machine doesn't make them, you can do it like this. So we have our folded edge up, and whether you folded this over twice or once, it doesn't matter. What you're going to do is just do a tiny mark, and I do one on each end because I can never remember which end I'm going to put through the sewing machine. There, above your folded edge. Okay, and I'm just using a basic marker. Okay, you can use any type of pen because you're not going to see it on the outside of the fabric. Even this dark marker you can't see. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is unfold it all the way down, but you see I still have my line, my fold line. I'm going to match up my ends, pull my serger edges out, make sure they match as close as I can. It's fabric, so it's not going to be exact. Okay, and this is the instructions I was talking about earlier. I'm looking for something to point with. So what I'm going to do is start on my top raw edge that has not been serged, and I'm going to sew down the line, and I'm going to stop right here where I marked, and I'm going to double stitch here. Okay, so back and forth stitch if you need to, but it's kind of into the stitch so it won't pull out because it's going to have a lot of pulling on it. Then I'm going to jump down here, leaving this open, and I'm going to start sewing from here to the bottom. Okay, I'm going to back stitch here, I'm going to back stitch here. All right, so again, because due to wear and tear, we don't want these to come undone. Okay, so now you can watch me do that. And again, like I told you, I did it on the wrong side, which is why I marked both sides. So you want about a 1/4 inch seam, which is pretty standard for most American patterns. And let's sew. And now I've skipped this whole section. Yeah, I've skipped this whole section here, and now I'm starting at my fold line. And my machine automatically does a back stitch when it starts. I just have to have it do the back stitch when it stops. Okay, so now if you look, this is going to be open. So when we turn this right sides out and we fold this down, which is going to become the tunnel that our elastic is going to be through, then you can see, then we have a place for our elastic to pull through. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is, and you can attach your crown portion first and then put your elastic in, or you can put your elastic in and put your crown portion in second. It really doesn't matter. It might be a little more difficult to attach the crown if you have the elastic in because it gathers this up just a tiny bit, but since I already have this here and we're talking, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to attach the elastic. Okay, so what I do is turn it wrong sides out, and I just kind of eyeball it so that my seam is in the middle right here. And I take my marker again, wherever I put it. Does anybody else spend most of their sewing time looking for their, thank you, my assistant, Lily. Okay, and then I'm gonna mark it. I like to put the elastic on the body of the cap and not on this portion here, so I'm gonna mark it. I wanted to start there. I'm gonna go this way, which is important, guys, because if you just mark your two sides, you may end up putting your elastic on the other side. So I put a little X here so I can remind myself that I want to pass that X when I put my elastic on. Okay, and so this elastic is obviously shorter than the hat body, so you'll end up stretching it to put it on. Let me show you how I do that. Oops, come back here. So I'm gonna just lay my elastic on there. And set it here. And I'm gonna use a zigzag stitch that's fairly tight. Again, I'm back stitching. Make sure you don't sew over your, whoa, hello. I went off just a bit. Nobody's gonna know. It's not perfection here, folks. Okay. You just need to sew only over your elastic, okay? Maybe do that one more time over your elastic because you want this to hold when they're pulling on it, okay? And then back stitch again, but my machine automatically is back stitching, so just in case you don't see me do it, it is happening. So now I follow this down. There's my X going the right direction. There's my other mark. I'm gonna lay it here. Doesn't have to be perfect. And also look, folks, your machines usually, that will come off, and if it makes it easier, then do it this way, okay? But what you don't want to do is sew this inside here, so make sure there's nothing else underneath your elastic or the area you're sewing, because that has happened to me before. Okay, I'm just going back over it one more time. And that should be plenty to make sure that it doesn't pull out. Okie doke. Now our elastic is in. I'm going to flip it. And I usually, because my elastic's on this back side, it can be a little difficult, so I start with the easy side right here where it's flat. Okay, anywhere you want, put this on your machine. Okay, and so when you come around to this side, you don't want to sew your elastic in here. So what I usually do is try to use this stitch line as a guide. See, my elastic is not touching that. So I know as long as I stay pretty close to the stitch line, my elastic is going to be able to move freely, okay? So that's what I'm going to try and do here. Let me see where I'm going to come down. Let me move that over. Okay. And I'm going to change, change my stitch. Okay, now I am close to, as you can see, there's my elastic. So it takes a little finagling here. Just want to make sure I'm holding it, I can feel it inside. And I'm only going to sew to here, and then I'm going to get a better grip on my elastic. Okay, now I'm going to pull this around. This is where this comes in handy if your machine has this. Now I can grab it. Make sure my elastic is inside and push it down into that fold, okay? So you don't sew over your elastic. And then sew again. I'm going to stop, get a better handle on it again, push it down into that fold, continue to sew. stop. Push that down in there. Just feeling where my elastic is. Hopefully last time. Okay, and we're back around to where I started. And I'm stay stitching. Now you'll be able to notice when I flip it right side out, then I come back here, that you're going to be able, and I should have done a better job of stitching here, so you shouldn't be able to see this line of serging. But I'm going to be able to come here and take a chopstick or a pen. Lily, can you give me my chopstick?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And we're going to put this here and pull our elastic through.
Would you like a paper clip?
Yes, please. You just kind of work with it. Okay, so after a little bit more finagling, turns out I didn't stitch it in my seams. I just wasn't pulling on it correctly. So if you pull like that, then your elastic will come out. And the idea that Lily and I had was to take a paper clip, loop it on the elastic like this. That way when they get it in shipping, we'll have, you can tell them just to pull on the paper clip to tighten it around their head. They tie a knot and discard the paper clip. They won't need it any longer. Okay, if it's somebody with a larger head, you can make these longer. You can use ties, like I was saying, out of the excess fabric. Or, you know, they can, if they have a machine and they want to sew it in place, they could sew it on each side wherever it's more comfortable for them. But that's how you do it. And now we'll put the crown on. Hey everybody, now we're at the machine and we're going to sew through, and I just unpinned it. Well, apparently I'm not a professional YouTuber, or this would be a much better video. Alrighty. Okay, pin is back in. Alright, we're going to sew around the crown of our hat. Okay, for those of you that are new to sewing, don't sew over your pins. That's a good way to ruin a machine. I know some people will tell you you can. Don't believe them. Okay. I'm going to do about a 1/4 inch seam. Like I said, is pretty average for most American patterns. If you end up doing about 3/8 inch of its seam, it doesn't hurt it either. So because I've accidentally done that as well. Sometimes you get old and you forget where you are. All right.
Real old.
Okay, so this, folks, is not going to go as quickly. So the crown of my hat, I don't want to pull and shift. Okay, what I'm going to actually move is this hat body. I'm going to make it form to the crown of my hat. Okay, so kind of, you can only do a bit at a time, but if you can see, I've got the two lined up here. And I'm starting to have a fold over, so I'm going to lift my foot up so it doesn't do that. And this, you just have to work it around, folks, okay? So it's painful. You can't go fast. Turn on a show. I don't know what everybody's watching on Netflix these days. I kind of like Gilmore Girls on repeat.
Weirdo.
And my daughter apparently doesn't like that. What are you watching, Lily, on Netflix?
I like Gilmore Girls, but not on repeat. That's just weird.
Oh, okay. What do you watch on repeat?
I don't know. I watch the baking shows. And then Disney Plus, I watch all of the vet shows.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, you're that kind of animal person. I can't watch those vet shows. They make me cry. Okay.
That's sad.
They are sad.
No, they're not.
Oh man. Okay, so now we're around, and I don't know if Lily can move the camera to show you. We're around to the section where we're going to put the pleat in, and I've got too much fabric here,
Ow.
and it's not going to fit. So what I'm going to do is see, this is my seam. I'm going to fold my fabric towards my seam. All I'm doing is I'm just sticking my finger in there. I'm folding it towards the seam, and that, folks, is about as technical as you get on this hat, okay? So I want to make sure I'm not underneath. I'm always pulling out, so I'm not going to make a kink in my hat body. I have a pin coming up, so I'm being a little gingerly. Once I get over this, I can pull that pin out. And I'm just going to go just right up to my seam. I'm going to backstitch, and I'm going to start at the beginning again and come around the other way. So, and the way I'm going to do that is the opposite direction. So this time I'll have this on top. You can move this pin out because it's really already held together by my stitching here. I'm going to put this on the bottom, trying to line it up. Curves are never fun. Okie doke. So I'm going to start where it's all sewn together because it kind of helps lay things out a little better. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see. So I want this to lay flat. And I want this to turn. If anybody has a better way to do this, I would love for you to let me know. Alrighty, coming around the bend. Just working with it as I go. And it's not perfect. You can see I don't have it lined up perfectly. That's okay. You just want to make sure that you don't miss sewing over both sides, okay? Okay, coming up. Oh, man. Okie doke. Almost over, folks. Thank goodness. Oh, it's killing me. Okay, now we're back, and for some reason I don't have as much to make a fold with on this one, but that's okay. No worries. Just go ahead and make a fold anyways. And since it's on the bottom, I have to make sure I'm going towards my seam here with the fold. Okay, and I don't even need that much of a fold. Okay, I'm going to fold it down and just continue to sew. A little bit of a fold there. Make sure your hat doesn't pull underneath your needle, because otherwise you're going to be using the seam ripper. And that is less fun than sewing in the round. Okay, so now I'm going to take it off the machine. And you can see that I've sewn all the way around, and they're not even, okay, so, but nobody's going to care. Because you're really not going to be able to tell when somebody gets their hair in it anyways. Turn it right side out. And guess what? You are all finished. Okay, and you've got this back here. You can pull your elastic out. Even with your fingers, really. You don't really even need a stick or anything. So that's the back of the hat. Here, this is what it looks like underneath. This is what it's going to look like on the forehead. Okay. Now for the buttons, what I would suggest doing is right here where you've stitched your elastic, I would stitch your buttons just slightly above that. It needs to be a large button so that they can put their masks on it, but one on each side. And if before you sew this together, it's a good idea to put, if you have iron-on interfacing, to put just a tiny square of iron-on interfacing here, maybe two, so that whenever they have the wear and tear on the elastic on the masks on the button, that it won't rip the fabric. It's not necessary, but it's just a good measure so they'll last longer. And that is how you make the scrub caps.